Good morning to everyone. So in the previous class we discussed about cellular respiration. So let us recap those questions. What is cellular respiration? The respiration which occurs inside the cell or tissue is called as cellular respiration or tissue respiration. What is anaerobic respiration? The respiration which occurs in absence of oxygen is called as anaerobic respiration. So during anaerobic respiration, either lactic acid or ethanol formed as end products. Okay. What is aerobic respiration? The respiration which occurs in presence of oxygen is called as aerobic respiration. As a result of aerobic respiration, carbon dioxide, water are formed as end products. So this is about the previous concept. So now we are going to discuss about three important topics: respiration versus combustion, evolution in respiratory systems, and the respiration in plants. So now first topic we'll discuss about respiration versus combustion. So let us see first combustion. Combustion means burning of a substance. Burning of a substance is called as a combustion. So related to combustion there is a small experiment given. Let us recap that experiment. For this we need one test tube, one glass jar and one spirit lamp and lime water. So these are the apparatus required. So during the experiment, by using spirit lamp, if you burn the glucose in the test tube, then the glucose first turns into liquid state. After some time, if you still burning it, some gas is going to evolve. That gas will enter into the another test tube which have the lime water. So there we can observe that the lime water turns into milky, which indicating the presence of carbon dioxide. So by this we can understand during combustion carbon dioxide evolved. Instead of laboratory, we can do even at home also. Take one bowl, add some sugar to it. It's a sugar also one type of glucose, and just try to burn it. So what we can see, first slowly turns into liquid. If you leave like that, after some time, then it turns into black. Sometimes your parents during the cooking time they used to forgot switch off the stove. So by that time you can notice it turns into black color, right? So that's called charring. So here also if you leave like that, first it turns into liquid state. Still if you forgot or if you leave like that, it turns into black. Still if you leave like that, even the vessel also going to burn. So that process simply we called as burning. But what we have to notice here, by burning it utilizes oxygen for burning process, and what is formed as an end product? Carbon dioxide, because by this experiment we can understand the lime water turns into milky, so carbon dioxide is formed as an end product. So during combustion process, what are the end products? Carbon dioxide and water are formed. And in the previous concept we discussed about respiration. Even we all know that in the same here also same glucose turns into CO2 plus water. So during the combustion also glucose, and even during the respiration also glucose finally converts or divided into carbon dioxide and water. But both are seems to be like similar based on the end products, but both are not similar. The process is entirely different from one to another. So now let us see the differences between the combustion and the respiration. So here see the first respiration is actually physiological process, but whereas combustion is a physical process. In the respiration, food substances does not turn into black, whereas in the combustion food substances turns into black. In the respiration the energy is released in several stages, whereas in combustion energy released at once only. And in the respiration several intermediates are formed, whereas in combustion no intermediates are formed. And in the respiration it occurs in presence of water, whereas combustion it occurs in absence of water. And respiration is a very controlled process, whereas combustion uncontrolled process. So let us see now the next point, evolution in respiratory systems. Actually evolution means the process of development. So when you talk about very primitive organisms or from the protozoans till the chordata, so there is different types of respiratory systems we can able to find. So especially in all single cellular animals like amoeba, paramecium, cylindrids like hydra, the respiration occurs by diffusion process. Whereas in all multicellular, higher animals, the respiratory system was designed based on 3 points. One is size of the body, and water availability, and the type of circulatory system they have. So in all higher animals, multicellular animals, the respiratory system was designed based on their size of the body and the water availability, where they used to live, either in the water scarce areas or water abundant areas. Based on that also the respiratory system was designed, and the type of circulatory system, because respiratory and circulatory digestive works together. They are very coordinated systems. So based on the type of circulatory system, even the respiratory system also designed. So now based on those 3 factors, majority of animals have 4 types of respiratory systems. So let us see what are those 4 important types of the respiratory systems. So one is tracheal respiratory system. The second is bronchial respiratory system. The next one, cutaneous respiratory system. And another well advanced is pulmonary respiratory system. So when we talk about tracheal respiratory system, here trachea are the respiratory organs. Example for the tracheal respiratory system we can find in all type of insects: cockroach, mosquitoes, houseflies, whatnot, butterflies. They all have trachea as the respiratory organs to take air into the body. Okay. Now coming to the bronchial respiratory system, here gills are the respiratory organs. Okay. So what is bronchial respiratory system? Where gills are as a respiratory organs, that system we can say bronchial respiratory system. Generally aquatic animals have the gills. All type of fish are the best example. And cutaneous respiratory system, where skin as a respiratory organ. The system in which skin as a respiratory organ, that system we can say cutaneous respiratory system. Best example for cutaneous is earthworm, leech, etc. Okay. Now pulmonary respiratory system. Here the lungs are the respiratory organs. So in the respiratory system where the lungs are the respiratory organs, that system we can say pulmonary respiratory system. So in all higher animals we can see lungs as a respiratory organs. So like reptiles means snakes, crocodiles, tortoises, like that, aves, all type of birds, mammals, especially mammals which give milk to their young ones, like cow, pigs, okay, even including human being, even dolphins, whales also belongs to mammals. They are aquatic mammals, so those also have the lungs. So all the higher animals have the lungs as a respiratory organs. So based on the availability of water, based on their size, and based on their circulatory system, these are the 4 types of respiratory systems. One is tracheal, bronchial, cutaneous and pulmonary. So let us see one by one now. So as I said, tracheal respiratory system we can see in all type of insects like cockroach, grasshopper, mosquito, etc. In the tracheal respiratory system, air directly enters into their cells. Actually, when I talk about our body, first it enters into lungs, from the lungs it enters into the blood. Whereas here, from the outside directly the air enters into their cells through the tracheal respiratory system. So let us see what are the parts present in it. Actually first it have fine holes which are called spiracles. Cockroaches have 10 pairs of spiracles. So both the sides of the body, they have a fine holes which are called as spiracles. Spiracles now opens into trachea. Trachea, all the trachea together at the center form as a longitudinal tracheal trunk. Longitudinal tracheal trunk. And from this it divides into fine branches called as tracheoles. So from outside directly air enters into spiracles. From these spiracles it enters into tubes called as trachea. All the tubes together form as a longitudinal tracheal trunk at the center of their body, and those are again divided into fine branches called as tracheoles. So in this way the air from outside directly passes through these tubes into the cells. So this is about the tracheal respiratory system found in all type of insects. So now let us see bronchial respiratory system. Actually in the bronchial respiratory system, air enters through the gills. Generally it is found in all type of aquatic animals. Best example we know fish. So here when the fish open its mouth, so we know that here they have gills. So when you see the gills, inside the structure is like this. These animals depends on dissolved oxygen. Okay, they won't take the atmospheric air. They can able to take the oxygen present in the water. So they absorb the oxygen from the water. First it enters into the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity nothing but the oral cavity. So from the buccal cavity, now the water enters into internal bronchial aperture. Internal bronchial aperture. Internal bronchial aperture. From internal bronchial aperture, now it enters into gills, also called as gill pouches. From here again it send outside through external bronchial apertures. So especially during the bronchial respiration, how the fish used to take water, just I want to say. It lowers its oral cavity. It lowers its oral cavity towards the water. Now the water enters into the oral cavity. Then it closes the mouth, and then the floor of the oral cavity raises up like this. So then automatically water enters into the inner parts of the respiratory system. So as I said, once it closes the mouth and once it raises the oral cavity towards up, automatically water enters into the gills. Then the gills will absorb the oxygen present in the water, and then they absorb oxygen present in the water and they add carbon dioxide in the gills. So that carbon dioxide along with the water it sent outside to the external bronchial aperture. So now let us move into the cutaneous respiratory system. In the cutaneous respiratory system, skin act like a respiratory organ. So as I said, earthworm, leech and even frog. Frog speciality, it is called as amphibian. Amphi means both. It can live in water and it can able to live on the land. So it uses even its skin also as a respiratory organ. So it uses skin and lungs as a respiratory organs. So especially the animals which respire through skin, they used to maintain the skin always moist in the nature. Okay, because from this moistness they will absorb the oxygen. So that's what when we touch earthworm or when we touch the frog, they are very slippery to touch because below the skin they have mucus glands. So the mucus is useful to keep its skin always moist. So from the moistness they absorb the oxygen, and that oxygen is useful for the further respiration process. That's what when I talk about frog, it gives more priority for the skin, or it uses skin as a respiratory organ in most of its time. Because of that reason, if the frog skin dries, it will die. Even though it can able to respire through lungs, but most of the time it respires through skin only. So that is about cutaneous respiratory system. So now pulmonary respiratory system. The respiration which occurs through lungs is called as pulmonary respiratory system. So this topic we already discussed. So how the lungs play vital role in the inhalation and exhalation, how it enters into cells, how cellular respiration will take place. So in all higher animals like reptiles, aves, mammals, so we belongs to mammals, even like dolphins and whales. Dolphin, whale, they used to live in water, but they belongs to mammal category. They are the aquatic mammals. Those also will respire through lungs. So in all higher animals, we can see lungs as a respiratory organs. It is a very well developed respiratory system compared with others. Okay. So this is about the evaluation of the respiratory systems. So now we'll discuss about the next point, respiration in plants. So plants also living organisms like us. So they also respire like us. During respiration, like us, they also will take in oxygen and leave the carbon dioxide. The speciality of plants is they can use both carbon dioxide, oxygen simultaneously in the different processes. So during respiration, they will take in oxygen and they leave the carbon dioxide. Whereas during photosynthesis, they will take in carbon dioxide and they leave the oxygen. Okay, so here how the exchange of gases will take place. Basically, you all know that gases exchange will take place through leaves. Second, even some plants gases exchange will take place through even stems also, and in some plants even roots also useful for the gaseous exchange. Okay, majority of plants will respire, or majority of plants will take in gaseous and leave the gaseous through the leaves. So leaves have a special structures called as stomata. Most of the plants under the surface of the leaf. Most of the plants in the lower epidermis, they have fine holes. We call them as stomata. Actually, stomata have two kidney shaped cells. These cells are called as guard cells. And the center space is called as stoma. Okay, this whole structure we can say as a stomata. So with the help of stomata, plants are used to take the oxygen and leave the carbon dioxide during the process of respiration. Now let us see stems. In some plants, stems have special structures called as lenticels. So here the lenticels are used to take the air and leave the air. Okay. In some plants like mangroves, mangroves are the plants where they used to grow in estuaries. Okay, estuary means the place where fresh water mixed with the marine water. What is estuary? Estuary is the place where fresh water mixed with the marine water, nothing but sea water mixed with the rivers. So that particular points we called as estuaries. So in the estuaries generally oxygen levels are very low and it have more salt content compared to the marine water. So in such areas, all the mangroves are generally used to respire through specialized roots. So these roots are called as respiratory roots. Respiratory roots are also called as knees or nematophores. So they used to respire through these specialized roots. So in these plants, leaves, stems, roots are useful for the exchange of the gaseous. Especially in some aquatic plants, the plants which grow in seas, in the same manner oceans, etc., the salt content is very high and even oxygen availability is very low. In such case, those plants have special adaptation. Stems are very hollow and which are used to take more water. From that water they absorb the dissolved oxygen. In this way, the gaseous exchange will take place with the help of stomata, lenticels and the respiratory roots in the plants. So now during respiration, like the animals, plants also produces carbon dioxide and heat. So now let us see a small experiment. How can we prove that heat or carbon dioxide liberated during respiration? Okay, so let us see this apparatus, then you can understand. To prove that carbon dioxide released during respiration in the plants, there is a small experiment. So we need a glass jar, next a small beaker with lime water, and we also required some seeds, either mung seeds or Bengal gram seeds. Mung is very preferable, or we can say them as green grams. So take some handful of green grams. The day before experiment, soak them in a water one night. After that, drain the complete water. Now arrange these seeds in a cloth pouch. So leave like that. So the next day we can see small seedlings. Okay. So these we can say them as sprouted seeds. So collect those sprouted seeds. Now introduce those seeds in a glass jar, and other side of the glass jar we arranged already a small beaker with lime water. Now keep the proper lid on the jar and leave the whole apparatus for some time like that. After some time, we can again see that the lime water turns into milky due to the presence of carbon dioxide. So by this we can say carbon dioxide released during the respiration by the sprouted seeds. So by this we can prove that carbon dioxide released during the respiration by the plants. In the same manner, we can prove that even heat is liberated during the respiration. So for that, same like before experiment, take some sprouted seeds, and here lime water not required. Instead of lime water, arrange one thermometer inside the jar and arrange the proper lid and leave the whole apparatus like that. After some time when we observe, there is a rise in the temperature of the thermometer. So by this we can say that heat is liberated during the respiration by the plants. So like this, both animals and plants will release carbon dioxide and heat during the process of respiration. Okay. So finally, now we are going to conclude the concept with the differences between respiration and the photosynthesis. Generally, photosynthesis occurs only in plants and some photosynthetic bacteria, whereas respiration occurs in all living organisms. And photosynthesis takes place only in the presence of sunlight, whereas respiration takes place throughout the day and night. A plant can survive without performing photosynthesis for few days, whereas no organism can survive without respiration for few minutes. In plants, only few cells perform photosynthesis, but in all living cells in an organism perform respiration. Raw materials for the photosynthesis are CO2 and water, whereas respiration uses the carbohydrates and oxygen. And oxygen is liberated during photosynthesis, whereas carbon dioxide is released during the respiration. Photosynthesis occurs in chloroplast, whereas respiration occurs in cytoplasm and mitochondria. And photosynthesis adds weight to the organism, whereas respiration decreases the weight of the organism. And photosynthesis is an anabolic process. Anabolic means synthesis process, whereas respiration is a catabolic process. Catabolic means breakdown process. And finally, the equation for photosynthesis is 6CO2 plus 12H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 6H2O. Now, the equation for respiration, C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives rise to 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus 686 kilocalories of energy. It is just opposite to the photosynthesis reaction. So by this we completed the concept of respiration. So I hope you all understood the concept. So again, try to recap a few questions. What is the difference between respiration and combustion? What is tracheal respiratory system? What is pulmonary respiratory system? What is cutaneous respiratory system? Okay, and what are the differences between photosynthesis and respiration? Then how can we prove that heat is liberated during respiration in the plants? Then how can we prove that CO2 liberated during the respiration in the plants? And which parts are useful for the respiration in plants? I hope you all answered my questions. Keep watching. Thank you.